collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at the next 3 entries in the JoyToy TMNT line. We have the Shredder, and then we have 2 variations on the Foot Soldier called Footclan A and Footclan B. Now I believe the 2 Foot Soldier figures are almost identical. The bracers might be slightly different, but it is the loadout of weapons that is different. So this one comes with a lot of ranged weapons, and then this one comes with a lot of melee weapons. So, plus it's kind of neat just to have 2 Foot Soldiers. I mean, you want to kind of have Shredder flanked, by Foot Soldier on each side, so I decided to grab both of them. Now, if you really, prefer one loadout over the other in terms of weaponry, of course you could just, army build B or A, or a mixture of the 2, whatever you prefer. But the figures themselves should be pretty close to similar, pretty close to identical. So packaging's pretty standard for these figures. You have the bubble here with a lot of glare going on, but you can see the figure, the weapons inside in this nice little box over here on the back, showing you some different pictures with some of the weapons. I love this weapon that is made to look like the one that was included with the original figure back in the day, the Playmates figure. I think that's super cool. They have a piece of a base, as you can see as well, which should be able to connect together just like the ones that came with the Turtles. This one's got a plunger, and he's got these kind of like bladed weapons on the forearms there. I'm assuming because he doesn't really have any other melee weapons, they decided to give him those. But yeah, they look pretty good. And then I think Shredder looks fantastic. This one came with the box on the bottom a little dented, so he's having some trouble standing up. But in any case, Shredder looks good. I feel like this appearance is very much based on his design from the 2003 show. But I always thought that was a really cool look for Shredder, so I'm happy with it. So yeah, gonna go ahead and get these guys out of the packaging here, and we'll take a closer look. So here they are out of the packaging, and I gotta say right off the bat, they're fantastic. JoyToy continues to outdo themselves. I'm really glad they're not like going crazy and only giving us about 3 or 4 figures at a time every couple of months, because they are a little pricey, but they are probably the best 1/18 scale TMNT figures you're ever gonna find. So if you are committed and you're can pay the price, I definitely think they're worth it. But let's dive in. Let's take a look at the man himself first, Shredder. I love this. Like I said, it feels like it's influenced by the 2003 show, but at the same time it's got its own little spin because it's got kind of a samurai look to it. I love the detailing on these armor bits here, like around the waist. And you can see here on the shoulders and even the sides of his helmet. I just think that looks fantastic. Now, I will say the eyes, I don't know if it's just mine, but they're a little weird. And when you kind of look at it, not super close or dead on, it's not that big a deal. But when you really look close, it looks like his right eye is a little smaller or something. But for the most part, I really like the way this turned out. When you kind of just have it like this, the shadow makes it not that big a deal, but they are a little off. Or maybe it's just the lighting. I can't really tell. They're very small. But all of the armor here looks fantastic. Like I said, you have the kind of samurai style to these shoulder bits. I love the spikes here on the forearm. I gave him one of the hands that has these large spikes on the back of the palm. They do have regular hands included, as you can see over here for the one holding the sword. He's got these 2 sheaths here on his waist, which I really like. Unfortunately, the swords cannot actually fit in the sheath. But what they do is they give you 2 handles. So if you want it to look like he's just got both of them in the sheaths, you can just use these handle pieces, which is what I have one of them in here right now. And then if you want him to wield the sword, you would just kind of remove that piece so that it looks like he's withdrawn the sword, which works. It would have been nice if they could have fit in there, but I understand why they couldn't do that. So I think that's a nice compromise, but I love the look of that. The cape is kind of a softer plastic. It's not really malleable, but it's also not like brittle. Like it's not going to break or anything. It's a little rubbery. So I appreciate that. I love these crazy long tassels they have here from the belt. I think that looks really cool. And the other thing I think is interesting is this is definitely the symbol for the foot from the 2003 show. But if you look at the Foot Soldiers, they have the like more traditional actual human foot looking emblem. So it's weird to me that they didn't do like pick one and make it the same for everyone. I think it's weird that they've done the regular kind of more traditional one for the Foot Soldiers, but then given him the 2003 one. Just interesting. But yeah, he looks good. I mean, all of this, the metallic is really nice. It shines with the light, looks sharp. I really think this came out great. In terms of articulation, a head can move side to side for Shredder. It can get a little bit of front to back, but not a ton. It's mostly side to side. You have a hinge and a rotation at the shoulder. You have a rotation and hinge at the elbow. I don't think there's anything actually in the bicep. And I don't know that he has a butterfly joint. He might not because of his armor, but it's not a big deal. But you have the swivel there. You have a hinge and like a rotation at the wrist. And you can swap out the hands. We'll check out more of his hands later. You have 2 ball joints kind of in the mid-abdomen and then at the waist. So you can see you can get a good range of motion there. You have a ball joint at the hip. You also have a thigh swivel, double jointed knees, and then you have a kind of hinge and ball joint at the ankle. So you can get a lot of good articulation there. But yeah, he came out great. I think he looks so good. Now they all have 2 possible stands. They have the large, like, part of the, sewer grate and the brick or stone, and you can use that and connect them together. If you like a more simple look, they each have like a normal, smaller stand, so you could just peg this into the foot. Now, this isn't going to cover both feet, but would certainly aid in helping him stand. No issues there. And again, I think it's interesting because they used the same like 2003 foot symbol for all 3 of the small stands. So even though the foot soldiers have the traditional foot logo on their belts, they still came with this stand. So a little bit all over the place with the foot symbols, but I will say Shredder came out amazingly. Now, he has the sword, as I showed you, and you have the little hilts if you want to put them both in the sheath. But then, of course, you have the long sword and the short sword. So he can wield both of them if you prefer. He also has these weapons, which I am not sure what they are called, but he could wield these as well. And everything's really nicely painted, looks really sharp. He does have 2 hands that have the blades on the back of the palms. You can see there. So if you wanted to have the 2 swords stowed away and then give him both of these, or even just... Well, see, they have closed fists, so you wouldn't be able to have this while he holds a weapon, which is a bit of a bummer. But again, you could make it look like both of the swords are sheathed, and then use both of these if you'd like. You also have... he has in the box, he comes with 1 grip. I think he actually... Is it both gripping hands? I don't know. He's got a set of gripping hands, as you can see here. I've given him 1 there, and then that. And then this is almost like... sword hand, but if you wanted the sword to kind of be like a little bit slacker, or maybe like to point forward, so like just for example, if I could get this in here. Oh, actually that is closed. Oh, you know what, this is a throwing star hand. That's what this is. It's closed at the bottom and it's for throwing stars. My mistake, but that's cool. He's got a special throwing star hand, and it looks like he's got 2 of them. So he's got a set of throwing star hands, a set of bladed, back of the palm blade hands, and then a set of gripping hands. And then he does come with 2 throwing stars. So he's got pretty good on the accessories. Like I said, I really like the look of having the 1 sword, having the other one sheathed, and then giving him the blade on the hand there. But again, you can mix and match, do whatever you want. Have him have 2 swords, have him have 2 throwing stars, have him have 2 bladed weapons on the back of the palms. Whatever you prefer, you got options. All right, so moving on to our 2 foot soldiers. I'll move Shredder back a little bit. They're very, very similar. The only things that are really different, the heads are different, and the forearms are different. And I'll show you what I mean in a little bit here. So we'll start here with Foot Soldier A, or Footclan A. He has got these really, really cool yellow eyes. I think they really pop, especially against the purple. But you can also see like some of the servos and circuitry at the back of the head and on the side there. I think it's a really cool design. I also like the kind of shawl they've given him. I think that really works, and that has a little bit of play if you need to move that around. The head can move. This one has a lot more play than Shredder's does because it's kind of smaller, so you can see up and down a lot more, side to side, no problem there. Otherwise, most of the articulation is exactly the same. You have the hinge and the swivel at the shoulder. Now, he does have the butterfly joint, as you can see there, so you can move that around. Otherwise, he's got the bicep swivel. Or I guess Shredder didn't have the bicep swivel, did he? I think because of the way his armor's done, Shredder has a little bit less articulation. So these guys do have the butterfly joint. They do have the bicep swivel. They have the elbow that bends. The wrists are the same. The abdomen joints are the same. Here at the hip, they have these really big thighs, as you can see, but I kind of have difficulty. There we go. I have difficulty sometimes getting him to kick forward, but it is possible. And then you have this kind of diagonal thigh cut, as you can see there. Double jointed knees still, and then you have the hinge and the swivel for the ankle, so that's all the same. But the way you have this belt, which the belt is very loose, you can kind of pull it down a little bit to get it to stay where you need it to, and it has that original, more traditional foot symbol, but it does move around a lot. And I think because it's got these two larger pieces here on the back, so you have a little grenade, which you can remove, so if you wanted him to throw this, you absolutely could. It has that little ball joint there to connect. And then it's just got this little like pouch. I guess could be whatever you want it to be, but that also connects with a tiny little ball joint. So if you wanted see, I think because having all this weight in the back makes the belt move around a little bit more than you might want. So you could remove those two things, or you could try to pull it down and hope it stays in place. That's my only real complaint, is the belt moves around a little bit too much for my liking. So the only difference is, like I said, we have the head here, and then the way the forearms are, you can see that they are done in silver, and he has these kind of bladed weapons attached to the forearms. I have him here with a knife, and then also I have him with a kind of traditional blaster, which I think looks pretty good. He has a couple of different hand options, so we'll roll through that. Let me give him a stand so he doesn't fall over. All three of these figures come with the same two stand options. So you have these pieces, which you can connect together like this. And then we grab the third one. They should be identical, but there we go. So then I guess maybe another release would have to give us the fourth piece of this, but you could just kind of display it like that if you wanted all three of them to be together, and then there's obviously several pegs around to pose them, which is cool. Or they all have the kind of traditional smaller base. So for Footclan A, as we are looking here, he has the two accessories I have him holding. He's got this like plunger-ish type ray gun, which we've seen a lot, which I think is really nicely detailed. You can see the mixture of the silver and the kind of matte gray, which I think looks really good, so that's really nice. He's got this weapon, which I feel like is something we've seen in the cartoon a lot. I feel like that's where the inspiration for this one came, but this is a mixture of purple, gray, and silver, which I think looks pretty good. Then he's got this smaller kind of handgun, which I know we've definitely seen in the cartoon a bunch, and that's a really cool accessory. I might actually give this to Bebop or Rocksteady. I feel like they used it a lot. He has a plunger. I don't really know why, but he's got a plunger, so we got that going. And then both of the foot soldiers have a little communicator, which I think is really cool. Really nicely painted, really nicely detailed. I like that quite a bit. So they each have a communicator there, and then of course they have throwing stars, so nothing new there. And then in terms of hand options, you get two trigger finger hands. So this is, he's got one of them holding the gun right now. This is for the other hand, a trigger finger hand. He's also got grasping hands, so this could be just any other kind of, handheld weapon. I've got him using one for the blade right now, and then this is another one. And then he comes with a open hand, so that if you wanted him to hold a gun, like one of the larger guns, you could have this hand kind of like, hold the end of the gun like this, so you could two-hand hold a gun. So I think that's kind of cool that they give that larger open hand there to give him those options. So I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, I think this guy looks great. I really love the accessories. I think he looks really cool. This guy is very, very similar. So the only difference is you can see this head has seen some battle damage. So one of the eyes is kind of exposed. So he's got the yellow eye, and then he's got the exposed robotic eye, which I think is a really nice touch. I do think the two yellow eyes looks cooler just because it's very piercing. But I do like that. This guy has seen a little bit of damage here on the head as well. These forearm pieces are different, so they're kind of just like a normal forearm, and then this is, you can see it has these two loops, and so you can move this around a little bit, and they just kind of, hang on the forearm there. And I believe the legs are exactly the same. So that's really the only difference, is the head and the forearms. Everything else is pretty much identical in terms of one foot soldier to the other. I love this accessory, though. This is definitely a throwback to the original Playmates figure from the late 80s, and I think that's so cool. And I had to give it to him. It just looks so great. It's a weird weapon, I admit, but the nostalgia was just too insane. I had to equip him with that. Now, in terms of other accessories, he has got a lot. So he's got a kind of traditional katana, and they also include a like broken version of it. So that way, you know, if you want to pretend he came across the turtles and they broke his blade, you could have him with this kind of broken piece, which I think is kind of a cool option. He's also got this larger blade, which I think looks really cool. Some nice detailing. And all of these are so nicely painted. I mean, you can see like the black wash there on the handle, the brown, the gold, the silver. The accessories look amazing. He's got this large, almost trident type weapon, which I think is cool. It has a blade down here as well. So that's really cool, really nicely done. He's got 2 tonfas. So if you want to equip him with those, you certainly can. And then, of course, he has the throwing stars, and he has the communicator. And then in terms of hand options, he has also got the kind of open hand to like hold. It could be either a blaster or it could be, you know, like if he wants to two-hand a weapon and, you know, staff or something like that, he could use it for that. And then, of course, you have 2 trigger figure hands. And then you've got 2 just kind of normal grasping hands. Now, even though he's using a melee weapon, it's rather thick. And so I had to give him a trigger figure hand to hold it on that end, because this larger hand is only for the right. And I was able to get that into the normal grasping hand. And maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should have. That might stretch it out over time. But yeah, I wish we kind of had 2 of these for the melee foot soldier, because this normal grasping hand was way too tight to get these larger accessories in. So I kind of had to make do with the trigger figure hand. But it totally works. So it's fine. But yeah, these guys are good. Here, I'll give him a base too so he doesn't fall over. But yeah, really good figures. I mean, honestly, I'll have to... Let me see if I can get this to tilt. He's just kind of hanging out in space up here. All right, well, whatever. Apparently he does not want to do that. We'll just leave him. But in any case, these are really cool. I like these a lot. I didn't know if I was going to care about having both foot soldiers, but I am ultimately glad I decided to get them both, because I think the weapon loadouts are different enough that it's nice to have both. And of course you can mix and match, you know, if you want them both to have melee weapons or whatever. I think in terms of design, I like the unbattle damaged foot soldier. I just think that's cooler. If I was going to buy multiples of one or the other, I'd probably go with this one just because I love that head. Again, not to say that there's anything wrong with this guy. I just think he's a little bit cooler. But yeah, Shredder came out phenomenally. And I'm having a great time with these figures. Like I said, they are pricey. I will admit, they are definitely more than I would like to usually pay for 4-inch figures. I found these on Amazon. I got them a little after the fact. Like, I didn't pre-order them. But they were about $40 a piece, which is pricey, especially for 4-inch figures. But they're really good. I mean, the articulation's amazing. The molded detail, the paint applications, all the accessories. I really don't have much to complain with these. The Turtles were great. Bebop and Rocksteady were great. These 3 are great. And I think the next wave is already up for pre-order, which is Slash, Toka, and Krang. So definitely excited to keep these going. But again, I'm happy that they're only doing a few at a time and they're spacing them out, because they're pricey, and I would not like to have 10 come out all at once. That would not be the way to do it. So, again, if you're a big Turtle fan, if you have the means, I recommend them, especially if you're a fan of 1/18 scale. I think these are probably the best 4-inch Turtle figures they're ever going to make. I could eat those words one day, but I kind of think they're not going to get much better than this. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks so much for watching.